Okay, it's spreading yellow time around here. Urban Phenom, B-double-E, Cash Simmons. You know who it is for the tail right here. Come on,
I hold it down for the city that I'm at. That's Kansas City boy in the middle of the map, yeah. And I'm KC stunting. Welcome to the town, homie. You don't want nothing, no. And if you cut me, I would probably bleed.
Hello there. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome to AA Radio. I am the editor, the grand editor of Arrowhead Addicts. That's what I'd like my new title to be, grand editor or master-in-chief, something of the sort. My name is Andrew Kulha. Welcome to the show. With me, as always, is Jason Seibel, rocking his Chiefs hat tonight. Do you have any interesting story about your shirt tonight, Jason? Or is it just a plain white tee?
No, tonight it's just a plain white T-shirt, man. All my Chief stuff is dirty after this last weekend. So my wife had my Chief shirt on. I had the Dallas Texans shirt. Rocked the Alex Smith away jersey during the Dallas game on Sunday. So yeah, everything's dirty, man. It's all in the laundry. So it's a white T-shirt, the Chiefs hat tonight.
Well, you know what? Sometimes simpler is better. I'm not a fashion expert myself. Let's get right into it, though. Speaking of last weekend was indeed a big weekend for your Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs Kingdom was delighted with a win, and it wasn't.
I obviously live in the heart of Cowboy country. I live in San Antonio, Texas, but on top of that, I watched the game with my wife's family down in southern Texas, and they're all Cowboys fans. So it was quite interesting getting that other perspective, when normally we're groaning for a bad call by the refs, the other half of the living room is cheering. So definitely a different perspective and and a tough-fought win. But, yeah, I mean, you said it. It was a great win. It was a great game, fun game to watch. Win by 1 point. You can't get much closer than that. And great defense, stepped up when it had to. Alex Smith, you guys say what you want, but the guy's the real deal. He is a, game winner. He led him on a drive when he had to lead him on a drive. Scored a touchdown when he had to score a touchdown to put his team in the lead. And, so there you go. Just a great game, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun watching it. At one point, of course, Chiefs go down, score on their first opening drive, and I'm about as noisy as can be in the living room. Cowboys come back with a field goal and then a touchdown, scoring 10 unanswered points, and my uncle, my wife's uncle, my wife is of Mexican descent. Her family's all Hispanic descent, so it went a little something like this. Where's Jason? Where's Jason? I heard him talking earlier. Now I don't hear him talking anymore. Did he go outside? As I'm sitting there on the couch being quite quiet because Chiefs were losing. And then the Chiefs drive down and score a touchdown in the third quarter. And, of course, I had to rub it in a little bit and said, hey, Uncle, where you at? I don't hear you talking over there. So it was a lot of back and forth. But, yeah, good game, a lot of fun. My stomach hurt until the final whistle blew. But, yeah, real good stuff.
Speaking of hurt stomachs, I mean, it was a nail-biter. That's kind of the definition of nail-biter. Officially, the Chiefs won 17-16, 2-0. 1-0 at home. Let's take a look at some of the stats here. Alex Smith was 21 of 36, 223 yards, which is a pretty good day for Alex Smith, in terms of his standards there. Plus the 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's kind of what you're looking for there. Like you said, Smith did a good job of leading the team. He made some nice throws. He wasn't exceptional, he wasn't a superstar in any way, but he led the team. He did a lot with his feet, actually, and, that's a huge part of what he brings to the table for the Chiefs. I think he's a very underrated athlete. Smith, and actually led the team in rushing yards, 57 yards on 8 carries. He picked up a really good first down on that first drive. If I remember correctly, it was about 3rd and 15, and Smith essentially evaded the rush, stepped up in the pocket, and then jumped over a couple defenders near the pylon. That's what I really look for in a quarterback, is his ability to lead, his ability to, even though you don't want to see your quarterback take a lot of bad hits, you don't want to see your quarterback put himself in unnecessary danger. I like the grit that Alex Smith showed on the run. And there's a lot to look forward to in regard to what he's going to bring to this team. So I'm very excited. What else do we have here? We had Jamal Charles had not his best day, 16 carries for 55 yards. He did pick up a touchdown through the air, though. He did come up big through the air, 8 receptions for 48 yards and 1 touchdown. Dwayne Bowe, 4 receptions, 56 yards, and 1 touchdown. And, of course, there's the defense. Jason, you touched on it. This defense just constantly does what it needs to do to win games. And if Kansas City is to win more games this season, which I do believe they will, this weekend could be one, and we'll talk about that soon. If Kansas City is to win, it's going to rest on the defense. All in all, the defense, how many takeaways did they get here? 2 turnovers. One, and both were fumbles. There's also that interception that wasn't an interception because of a defensive holding by Eric Berry. So overall, the team played good. It was a gritty game. It was the first home game, a lot of emotions. Playing Dallas, Dallas is a good team. They're not the Dallas Cowboys of old, but they're still a pretty good team. And 2-0. How about that, huh?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's what you want when Andy Reid and John Dorsey sign on to lead this team at the start of the offseason. 2 weeks in, and the team has already matched its win total from last season. They played 2 games, and here we are. So I want to go back just real quick on and touch on what you said. Alex Smith, 223 through the air. That brings his average now to about 200 a game. He was 173-ish last in week 1, and then 223 this week. And then 57 yards on the ground. That's a big deal when you look at the total offense that guy's producing now. That brings his total offensive production up to 280 yards. Charles, we always expect Charles to run 100 yards, 110, 20, 50 yards a game. But if you look at his combined offensive production, total yards from scrimmage, you're looking at over 100 yards, through the air as well as on the ground. And the guy scores a touchdown 2 weeks in a row, and JC's finding the end zone. So, we want Charles to run the ball. We need Charles to run the ball. But I don't think that it's imperative that the guy get 100 yards on the ground as long as he's still, contributing to that aerial attack.
And you think about Andy Reid's offense, and, right now the biggest frame of reference I have is Andy Reid when he was at Philadelphia. And with him, LaShawn McCoy was also a big factor through the air just as much as he was on the ground. And the same could be said for Brian Westbrook back when they had Donovan McNabb. So there is a plan that's laid out, and that plan in an Andy Reid offense is, the running back's going to get a lot of carries. He's going to be productive, but he's also going to play a lot he's going to have a big impact on the passing game. So that's something to look forward to and to keep an eye on as we move forward throughout this season. Jamal Charles is a good receiver out of the backfield. He can catch balls. He can be an impact out of the backfield. So keep an eye on that. He does not just have to make an impact with his feet, and that makes this team very dangerous, I think. Jason, going to this next point here, I'm just going to give the talking point that you put out, and then I'm going to let you pontificate because, I think you might have touched on it, but talk Alex Smith and his eliteness.
All right, here's the deal. I am not quite ready yet. Let me purify this statement. Let me qualify this statement, if you will, with the fact that I like Alex Smith. I was on board with the Alex Smith to KC trade before it happened. In fact, I was going through some old comments on Fansided and between Patrick Allen and I was calling for Alex Smith to the Chiefs right after the Super Bowl. There was a comment made. So I've been on board with this for a while. However, in the way that we measure an elite quarterback in the NFL right now, I will say that Alex Smith is not an elite quarterback. But when you look at some of these elite quarterbacks, let's talk about what Alex Smith is doing, and they are not. My first example would be Eli Manning. Eli Manning has a very important stat in the NFL right now. Do you know what it is, Andrew?
I'm guessing it's interceptions.
He leads the league in interceptions with 7 in 2 weeks. Seven
Wow.
interceptions in 2 weeks. Eli Manning. Eli Manning is an elite quarterback. Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings. Eli Manning has beat the New England Patriots twice in the Super Bowl with last-minute fourth-quarter drives. Eli Manning beat Alex Smith's 49ers in the 2011 NFC Championship game. My point is this year, what's the Giants' record? It's 0-2. What's the Chiefs' record? It's 2-0. Let's look at quarterback play. Now, am I saying that Alex Smith is a better quarterback than Eli Manning? I'm not ready to go quite that far yet. But what I am saying is when you look at the eliteness of some of these quarterbacks, a lot of people say Cam Newton is an elite quarterback. Cam Newton hasn't put up the production so far this year.
Are a lot of these people in the Carolinas, perchance?
Well, a lot of
Cam Newton is not an elite quarterback. He's a very talented quarterback, but elite he is not.
a lot of people say, that I think they're basing it off of his rookie season more than anything. He had that great rookie year. My point here is Alex Smith, and I've said this before, but now I'm going to say it. We're live on AA Radio. Alex Smith is not going to throw for 350 yards a game, but throwing for 350 yards a game isn't necessarily what makes you an elite quarterback, and that's my point. You don't have to throw for 425 and 7 touchdowns every single game, or even at all. Peyton Manning, I'm talking to you, to be an elite quarterback. Is Peyton Manning an elite quarterback? You bet he is, because he's reached that status. But for this team, with what this team needs, it doesn't need Alex Smith to do that. When I call Alex Smith an elite quarterback, what I'm referring to is the fact that the guy's completed about 64% of his passes over 2 games. He's thrown 4 touchdown passes. So if you want to extrapolate that number out to 16 games, right now he's on pace to throw 32 touchdowns on the year, which is pretty respectable. He's on pace to throw 3,200 yards, which is pretty respectable. And he's on pace to throw 0 interceptions. Now, is Alex Smith going to throw 0 interceptions? Probably not. The guy's going to get picked off eventually. It's going to happen. But after 2 games, there are only a handful of quarterbacks. I believe there's 4 in the NFL that are starting quarterbacks who have not thrown an interception. Alex Smith is one. Ironically enough, Michael Vick is another one that they'll be playing tomorrow night with no interceptions. So do I say Alex Smith is elite? In the terms of most of the NFL, no. But in terms of this Kansas City Chiefs team, I think he's absolutely elite.
Let's say this. I think we have to reevaluate what elite necessarily means. I think he's elite for the needs of Kansas City. If that makes any sense. He is the right quarterback for this team. He is the right quarterback for this organization. I fully believe, as the Chiefs stand right now, they are going to win games. And if they go on to win a Super Bowl one day, maybe not this year, maybe next year, the year after that, if they go on to win a Super Bowl, it's going to be because of this defense. It's going to be because of this defense, which could be borderline elite. Speaking of elite, I think there are the pieces of an elite defense within this team. I think there are the pieces of an elite defense within this scheme that Bob Sutton is, he's running. Dontari Poe, I think, has the potential to be an all-star. I think he has the potential to be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. So Alex Smith does not necessarily have to be an Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to be a Peyton Manning. What he has to be is an MVP Alex Smith. And that might not make a lot of sense to anybody outside of Kansas City, but it sure as hell makes a lot of sense from where I'm sitting. They do not need Alex Smith to win games, per se. Do they need him to put up in the high 100, 200s, low 300 yards on a weekly basis and a couple touchdowns? Yes, they need that. Do they need him to facilitate an offense? Do they need him to facilitate long drives, make sure the ball gets to Dwayne Bogue, to Anthony Fasano, to Dexter McCluster, to Jamal Charles? Yes. But at the end of the day, Alex Smith has to be the MVP of his own abilities. And if he can do that, if he can lead this offense, I believe, and I firmly believe, that this defense is going to be the key to any long-term great success that the Chiefs have in 2013 and beyond.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny. I work in a very football-friendly office. And two of the guys that I work with, one's a Bills fan, one's a Dolphins fan, and I go in there Monday morning, and usually the first about hour and a half of the day, no work is getting done because we're all talking football. And I made the comment, Chiefs have a top 5 defense. And of course I get laughed out of the cubicle. Well, here's the deal. I don't care if you don't think that that's true or not. It's true. The Chiefs have a top 5 defense. If you look at the numbers over 2 weeks, now granted, there's not a very big, way to measure them 2 weeks into the season. But 2 weeks into the season, they're number 2 in rushing defense. They're like number 4 in passing defense, and they're number 3 overall in total yards allowed. So tell me that the Chiefs don't have a top 5 defense. In the 2013 season thus far, the Chiefs have a top 5 defense. So, and they're only going to get better. They really are only going to get better, and they're going to be the key to the Chiefs winning tomorrow night if the Chiefs do indeed go on to win tomorrow night.
And we will get to that, so don't you worry about that, Addicts. First of all, I would like to thank everybody who is watching live right now on Google Hangout, I believe, or it's YouTube. I'm not really the technically advanced guy here. Jason is taking care of all of this. So thanks to everybody who's watching live. Thanks to everybody who will be listening to this on iTunes later on, all of our iTunes listeners and subscribers. Thanks, and thanks for all the readers out there, all the addicts as we call them. Just to kind of reset this is AA Radio. I'm Andrew Kulha. This is Jason Seibel, who is sitting across from me here, and I'm the editor. Jason is one of our writers at Arrowhead Addict, and our job is essentially to bring you the best information, opinion, and news on the Chiefs. AA Radio is one of the ways that we like to do that, and if you stumble across us, welcome. You're in a great place if you're a Chiefs fan. All this talk about Alex Smith, Jason, brings up a new segment that you'd like to try out here on the show. So why don't you go ahead and introduce that segment, and we'll get right to it.
Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 2 quarterbacks. One of those quarterbacks is going to be Alex Smith. The other one is going to be another quarterback in the NFL. And I'm going to say, would you rather have Alex Smith or this guy? Now, folks watching at home or at work or from your mobile phone, wherever you're watching from, absolutely invite you to play along. Tweet it out, hashtag would you rather, and but here we go. So first one, I'm going to say, would you rather have under center Alex Smith? Now, let me quantify the game here. With the Chiefs team that we have this year, would you rather have Alex Smith or Matthew Stafford?
That's a question that hits home for me, Jason. As some of our readers probably know, I am from Detroit originally, so I've got to see a ton of Stafford in the past few seasons, ever since he came aboard with the Lions. I will say this, I think he's a very talented quarterback. He's an immense talent. He has a great arm, and he's a lot more athletic than people will give him credit for. With that said, Stafford has regressed, in my opinion. He's started to throw this weird sidearm throw. His mechanics are horrible. He's apt to throw interceptions, and at this point, he's the complete opposite of Alex Smith. He's a great athlete with a tremendous arm who could launch it 500 feet down the sideline, but he does not have the accuracy that Smith has. So I would rather take Alex Smith. What about you?
Oh, well, I exactly for everything you just said. Alex Smith, hands down. So, it's out on Twitter right now, folks. Addicts out there watching and listening. Would you rather the hashtag? So, and even if you're listening to this podcast after we post it, after we're done being live here, still like to hear what you have to say, Addicts, and we'll definitely mention some tweets on the air during our next episode, or respond to you. Andrew there that runs the Arrowhead Addict Twitter account, are real good about answering back to folks who tweet him. So, okay, next one. San Francisco and Seattle obviously battled it out on Sunday Night Football. San Francisco being the former home of Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith, lost his job last season, Week 10, to Colin Kaepernick. Smith goes out with a concussion. Kaepernick comes in. Harbaugh stays with the hot hand. Would you rather have Kaepernick or Smith?
Oh gosh, well we actually know what San Francisco feels about that because they went with Kaepernick. Kaepernick's a younger quarterback, much more athletic. If I were in the situation, if I were John Dorsey, if Andrew Kulha was the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, I would take Colin Kaepernick. I would take him because I think this team could really, really run the read option. We saw a little bit of it with Andy Reid, and Andy Reid did a little bit of that last week against Dallas. We saw a little triple option with Smith looking at the dive, the pitch, and then he kept it himself. I think Kaepernick could really run that well with this defense behind him and the athletes around him. I think he could do really well. What do you think?
I'm actually inclined to agree with you. I think Kaepernick is an extremely valuable young asset. I think the kid's going to be a great quarterback for years to come in this league. As he develops, I think that this run option, this read option offense, I'm not going to call it a flash in the pan. It's not quite Wildcat, but it's close. Defenses are figuring out more and more, and if you watch Kaepernick, he's standing in the pocket a lot more and running a lot less. So, but the guy's got a cannon for an arm. I mean, he can launch the ball down the field 50 yards in the air. It's pretty impressive. However, again, if we're talking about the 2013 Kansas City Chiefs, I like Alex Smith over Kaepernick for his leadership ability. I think Alex Smith, one thing that he had coming into this locker room, having had 8 seasons in the NFL, having been through the ups and downs, he comes into this locker room to a team who has had absolutely no success in recent years, other than the 2010 season, which a lot of people would call a fluke. And he says, you know what, guys, we're going to band together and we're going to make this work. And so, I think that for this team, he's definitely got the edge on Kaepernick there. But I think in the long term, if we're talking long term, I think that that the Kaepernick edge is out just because you've got that longevity with Colin Kaepernick.
I will say this. I think it could actually be somewhat of a win-win. Either way you go, there are good things from both quarterbacks. So I think any general manager who had to pick between Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick would be in a good position. Who's next?
Would you rather have Alex Smith or Phillip Rivers?
This is, without a doubt, probably the easiest one. I would take Alex Smith in a New York minute. Phillip Rivers, he's a good talent.
I'm sorry, Phil. I was going to say Phillip Rivers threw 400 yards almost against Philly and 4 touchdowns. Everybody.
Yeah, yardage is yardage. I mean, I could go out there and throw 500 yards against the right defense with the right people around me, and maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement, but yardage means so much in the NFL. I think there's something to be said for composure, for poise, for leadership, for just the ability to go out there and not get rattled at the quarterback position. And I know that Alex Smith can be that quarterback. I do not think Phillip Rivers can be that quarterback. So I'd take Alex Smith every day of the week there.
Yeah, I mean, my nickname for Phillip has always been, will always be Phillip Crimea Rivers ever since the what we like to call the Monday Night Miracle here in Kansas City. Again, I know you're kind of new to Chiefs Kingdom, Andrew, but the Monday Night Miracle, to refresh everybody else's memory, was Halloween night in 2011 on Monday Night Football, Chiefs-Chargers in Arrowhead. The Chargers had an absolute certain victory. Phillip Rivers drives the Chargers down into Chiefs territory, and then fumbles the snap, and Andy Studebaker, backup outside linebacker for the Chiefs, comes out of the pile with it, and then dubbed the Monday Night Miracle. And actually, Matt Castle, believe it or not, drives him down the other way and scores a touchdown to win the game. So, and Phillip Rivers crying on the sideline, one of the most beautiful sights that any Chiefs fan can ever see. Other than the Oakland Coliseum collapsing, but we won't go there. But So yeah, no, definitely a no-brainer. I mean, again, when you talk about poise, when you talk about leadership, Alex Smith definitely hands down over Phillip Rivers. Although the guy can sling the ball, I will give him that. He can sling the ball, and he showed that on Sunday against the Eagles. All right. Well, that's all I got for that. We'll do those 4 quarterbacks for this week, and and see what the addicts think out in the Twitterverse and everything else. Thanks for those folks at home playing along. Appreciate it, and curious to hear what you guys think. Definitely tweet at Arrowhead Addict on Twitter. Use the hashtag Would You Rather, and I know Andrew just threw that out on Twitter there real quick to get everybody kind of going with that. So.
Well, we do actually have a couple answers here, so we might as well come out and give those tweeters or Twitter followers a little bit of recognition. Julan Banago. That sounds about right. Gosh, sometimes Twitter handles are just hard to read. To win an actual game, Alex Smith. This is between Smith and Stafford. To win an actual game, Alex Smith. To win in fantasy, Matthew Stafford. And I would agree that 100%, but unfortunately, fantasy does not win games in the NFL. And here's one from Jesse Titus, or as his Twitter handle so eloquently is called, @tightass69. So thanks for that, Jesse. At Arrowhead Addict, I'd rather have a quarterback with one arm that is blind than Phillip Rivers. So tight ass 69 with a hot sports take there. And Logan Booth, and I believe he's referring to the Alex Smith and Phillip Rivers question. He wonders if that's even a question. So obviously the Addicts are out in full force tonight, and I'd like to thank you guys for those answers there. And we'll try to get more as the night goes on. Now that we've had some fun, let's do a little bit of recapping. We talked first about the Chiefs' brilliant win over the Dallas Cowboys. Jason, take us around the AFC West, if you will.
All right, AFC West coming up. Obviously, the big one, and we'll touch on this here right before the end of the show. But the big one is tomorrow night. The Chiefs' one and only primetime game of the season, and that'll be Thursday Night Football when the Kansas City Chiefs go into Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, the high-flying Eagles. So, but we'll come back to that one here in just a minute as we kind of work our way around the NFL here a little bit. I'm having technical difficulties with my laptop here. As we work our way around the NFL a little bit further, we can take a look and see. You got all right, you got San Diego going into Tennessee. San Diego, again, just like we said, coming off a big win against the Eagles, kind of figuring out how to make that offense slow down and score some points on them. Tennessee's playing good defensive football right now. They may have the Chargers number, so that'll be a good game to watch there. You've got and then of course you've got the first AFC West matchup of the season. You got Oakland going to Mile High and playing Denver. I don't even to quote our Twitter follower there earlier. Is that even a question? Oakland going to Denver, unless we're looking for the upset of all upsets. Denver easily, obviously, handles Oakland, and Oakland is going to drop to 1-2. And I think that San Diego is going to drop to 1-2. I think Tennessee might have a good answer for them. Tennessee's playing real good defensive football right now, and may have a good answer for them. What's your take, Andrew?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not all that caught up on what Tennessee is bringing to the table. So, if I had a little bit more time to actually get some tape on them, which I might actually go do later on tonight just to kind of check it out now that I'm interested. But like you said, they're playing some good defense. I do think that this is a game the Chargers can win. So, will they win? That's really up for debate because as at tight ass 69 so eloquently put it, he'd rather have a quarterback with one arm that is blind, mind you, rather than Phillip Rivers. So you just never do know with the Chargers, and I think that that's really one of the downfalls is you never really do know. As for the other game, Oakland and the Broncos, I don't know who is Peyton Manning's backup this year. I know it's not Tebow, but
It's
whoever it is, who is it?
Brock Osweiler, kid out
Brock
of Arizona.
Osweiler.
Yep.
Okay, Brock Osweiler reset. Well, I expect to be seeing some of Osweiler in this game because, frankly, I think that the Broncos are going to put up a lot of points really quickly, and they will pull Manning by, I don't know, let's say the fourth quarter. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. And then the big game, the big prime time, Thursday night, the lights are on. The whole nation is watching as the Kansas City Chiefs head to Philly, the city of brotherly love, the city of cheesesteaks, the city that threw batteries at Santa Claus, head to Philly to take on Andy Reid's former team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Kansas City coming in at 2-0. They've won as many games as they had all of last year. Philadelphia is 1-1, but they have Chip Kelly at the helm, Michael Vick running the show, guys like LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson. This is a good team. Let's not get it wrong. This is a good Philadelphia Eagles team coming into this game at 1-1. The lights will be on. The nation will be watching. This, for all intents and purposes, is a huge game, and it's only week 3 of the 2013 NFL season. Jason, give me your first thoughts on this game.
Well, first thoughts, the Eagles didn't finish much better than the Chiefs did last year. They were 4-12, Chiefs were 2-14, so two more wins. So on the onset of the season, you're thinking teams are going to be a little bit more evenly matched. As the season has progressed, the first couple games, we see this high-flying offense, this college offense from Chip Kelly, who comes to Philly from the Oregon Ducks. Not a big Chip Kelly fan, never have been. But it's one of those things, just like anything else, once defenses figure it out and kind of get the template for it, then they're going to be able to stop it. I think the key to this game and first major thoughts of this game is, you got to – Andy Reid has got to control the clock on offense, and I know it's kind of been one of the things that he's been, dogged about before, especially when he was in Philadelphia, was his clock control. But he's got to control the clock, and the defense is going to have their hands full while stopping that offensive attack of Chip Kelly and the Eagles. But if the defense can put some pressure on Vic, we all know that Vic has got a glass jaw. Vic goes down hard. The Eagles bring in Nick Foles. Nick Foles didn't look too good in the couple of plays he played when Vic went down last week. So I'm not advocating hurting a quarterback, and I want to make that very clear, but I'm just saying if you put pressure on Vic, if you knock Vic down, we know that Vic has a tendency to go down and stay down at least for an extended period of time. So there is the possibility, and this defense has got it. Dontari Poe coming through the center of the line, and this is not a very good a very, very good offensive line. This is an offensive line that's still trying to figure things out. So I think that this Chiefs defense can really put some pressure on Vic and fluster him to the point where he starts making some mistakes. And maybe the Chiefs get the first interception against Mike Vick for the season.
Maybe, and you know what? I think that that's a good possibility. Brandon Flowers, last I saw, was listed as probable, and I'll make sure to confirm that before the end of the show. But if he's out there, I think he'll get some looks. And of course, there is Sean Smith, who is a big, tall, cornerback, lanky guy, can play physical. Really, I think the key here is going to be stopping Deshaun Jackson, and I think Smith has the potential to do that. If not, they can always try to bracket coverage him with Eric Berry, who he's an excellent football player. So I do think Kansas City has the right pieces to stop this Philadelphia Eagles offense. So one thing that I think is important to talk about is the fact that the Eagles score a ton of points. They scored 33 in their opening win against Washington, 30 in a loss to San Diego. They score a lot and they score quickly, and that was Chip Kelly's MO at Oregon. The thing to keep in mind here is that the more the offense is scoring, that means the more that Philadelphia's defense has to play. And looking back at their past 2 games, they gave up 27 to Washington, 33 to San Diego. So Kansas City's offense has a chance to do a lot of good here, specifically if they run the ball, and I think this is going to be a key. I believe, and if I were a coach, this is how I would approach it. I would be running that ball, pound that rock, make sure that ball control and time of possession is on your side, because if that's the case, the Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to be out there a ton, and they're going to be grinding against a pretty good rusher in Jamal Charles. Get the short passing game going that Alex Smith loves to do. Get Donnie Avery involved. Get Dwayne Bowe involved. And if they can just grind, if Kansas City can just grind away at that defense, Philadelphia's offense is going to go out there and score quickly, which is going to put the defense right back on the field. And I think that that's going to be a key to this game, is really taking advantage of a defense that's going to be tired and a defense that's going to put up a lot of points. Another thing that I'd like to look at, and Jason, I'd really like to get your opinion on this. Addicts, if you're out there, I'll put this out on Twitter as well. I saw a little bit today on our message boards how some of our addicts out there were scared that if Dante Poe puts pressure on Michael Vick, that's going to force him to scramble. That's going to force him to get out of the pocket, which will then play to his strength. I see where they're coming from. I will say this, though. I think that if you can get Mike Vick to scramble, that just means you're setting him up to fumble the ball. He's already fumbled the ball twice this season. He's already lost 1 fumble. He hasn't thrown an interception yet this season. So I'd take my chances. I'd send the pressure. I'd send blitzes. I'd send Poe. I'd get him out and moving and see if I can get a big hit on the guy. And then maybe he'll fumble the ball. We'll get a takeaway that way. So I think that Kansas City is really set up to go into Philadelphia and, quite frankly, surprise a lot of people on a national stage. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, you bring up a good point, and here's my counterpoint to that. Bob Sutton's a smart guy, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, and Andy Reid is a brilliant coach, and Andy Reid has the distinct advantage in this situation because while he doesn't necessarily know Chip Kelly's offense, and the Eagles are running a different offense than they were last year under Reid, Andy Reid knows the Philadelphia Eagles personnel. He knows their strengths. He knows their weaknesses. And if you don't think that he's, telling Sutton what needs to be done, then you're sorely mistaken. I think that when they send Poe up the middle to put pressure on Vic and say, unleash the big man, they're going to have the guys on the outside, whether it's Houston and Holly or cornerbacks or bringing a safety around or, a different sub package. They're going to have those guys on a contained type mode to basically contain Vic from breaking a long one. And let's be honest here. Mike Vick is a fast guy, but he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not getting any younger. I'm not saying he's lost a step, but when Mike Vick scrambles, you hit the nail on the head. Mike Vick drops the ball, or he tries to force a pass, and that's when Mike Vick throws interceptions. So I think the pressure is a good thing. I don't think that it's necessarily going to to cause it. The defense just has to be aware and play smart defensive football. And I think that they're very capable of doing that. I think that they're very, that they know where that they need to be. And I think Sutton's going to have them ready. Even on a short week, I think Sutton's going to have them ready. Because I think that they've been game planning for this game through the whole season. Maybe not necessarily game planning and being exactly with the game plan, but they've been getting ready for this game for the whole season.
Yep. It's going to be a big one, that's for sure, and it's going to be one that I'm sure all of Chiefs Kingdom will be tuning into. Thursday Night Football, Chiefs versus Eagles. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see how this game turns out. I think we're going to learn a lot about the team, just see how they respond to the big lights, how they respond to playing a team like the Eagles. All right, last thing I want to get to, and then we'll get out of here, get on with our days. ESPN's NFL rankings, Jason, you're keeping a pretty close tab on those. Fill us in on where the Chiefs are. How did that win last week impact them?
Well, I was talking to you before the show and saying I was actually listening to last week's episode, just kind of refreshing my memory, and it kind of made me chuckle because last week the Chiefs on the ESPN Power Rankings were all the way down at number 20. That's down 1 from the first week after a win. So they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars and they dropped down a position. And you made the comment another win would do well for them. And if these teams lost, if these teams won, well, a win definitely worked wonders for them. The Chiefs actually jumped 7 positions up to number 13. Chiefs are in the top 13, coming in at number 13 this week. Had the second highest jump of any team on the ESPN Power Rankings. The biggest jump going to the San Diego Superchargers, the guys in powder blue from down south there. Jumped 10 spots from 26 up to 16 with a win against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that bodes well for next week for the Chiefs. Pull out a win tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football on NFL Network against these Eagles. I am very, very curious to see how much ESPN is going to bump them up in the rankings. But right now the Chiefs sitting at number 13, and I'm good with that. I'm good with that for a team that finished dead last in the entire league last year to be now 3 weeks just getting ready to start week 3 to be at 13. I can live with that. I think that it shows that at least some of those sports writers and folks out there that get paid to do this instead of us that don't get paid. We just do it because we love the sport. That they're taking notice. Obviously, Denver Broncos, they're going to be towards the top, and they are. They're number 2, up from number 3 last week after a pretty convincing win against the New York Giants. As I mentioned, Chiefs at 13, Chargers at 16, and then the Raiders actually moved up 2 spots from 31 to position 29 after besting the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are number 32. And just a real quick of note, number 31 this week, dropping down a position, are the Cleveland Browns, who it was announced earlier this afternoon that they traded Trent Richardson, their star running back, first-round draft pick from last year's draft, number 3 overall drafted. They traded him to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2014 draft pick. So pretty interesting trade there, and don't want to get too much in depth with it as we definitely been talking for a long time, and it's not necessarily Chiefs related, although it is because the Chiefs play the Colts this year, so we'll have to face Trent Richardson, but just thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, real quickly, and that is very interesting. I did not see that coming. I doubt many people did see that coming. Let's play that game that I played last week, looking at the few teams ahead of Kansas City in these ESPN rankings, the Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals, and Bears. The Dolphins next week will play Atlanta, and that's a game that they very easily could lose. Baltimore will be playing Houston, a game that they easily could lose. The Bengals will be playing Green Bay, a game that I think they will lose. That's going to be a tremendous game, but I think that Aaron Rodgers is playing incredible right now. And Chicago will be playing Pittsburgh, which is another game that could go either way. So you're looking at potentially 4 losses there, 4 losses. That could, if Kansas City was to beat the Eagles, which would be a very big win, mind you, on a national stage, you could very easily see the Chiefs move up into the top 10 of these ESPN rankings. And that's something that even the most optimistic of Chiefs fans would have thought impossible after last season. But here we are looking at a new program, a new team, and just a very new attitude around this organization. So exciting times ahead, and a lot of it is going to be resting on tomorrow night as the Chiefs take on the Eagles. So I think it's about time we get out of here. Frankly, I'm getting tired, and we've been keeping the Addicts up for too long tonight, Jason. For Jason Seibel, I'm Andrew Kulha. Listen, if you're listening to us right now, live on Google Hangout, on YouTube, thanks a lot. If you're listening to us on Arrowhead Addict, if you went and clicked on the article, thanks for that. And if you're watching, if you're listening on iTunes, thanks for that. We appreciate all the support, and we're here to bring you the information, the knowledge, the opinion, everything that you could really want as an addict. We're here to feed that addiction. So, Jason, any final thoughts?
Chiefs got a real good shot to win tomorrow night. They need to play smart football, and I'm looking forward to it. Gonna enjoy my adult beverages and my chicken wings, and it's gonna be great Chiefs football on a national stage, like you said. So again, just want to echo you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We definitely appreciate it, and let us know what you're thinking. Obviously, tweet Arrowhead Addict and use the hashtag AA Radio to get our attention. And if there's something you want to hear, we'll definitely. We'll definitely work to your whim. This is for you guys to watch. We like to talk about football, but we like, to definitely to play to the Addicts. So looking forward to that, and can't wait to watch the game tomorrow night and talk to you all next week.
All right, for Jason, I'm Andrew Kulha. Addicts out there, stay safe and keep craving, baby. Let's make it happen Thursday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. See you later.
Chiefs!
I would probably bleed. Red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow. See, y'all just Indians and we the Chiefs. Red and yellow,